I say go live, it goes live. Sometimes I wait for it to think that it's not going to go live so quickly, but boom, I say go live and it goes boom, you're live. So, hi there. Hey, welcome everybody to the Panda Lair and Pub Fryah night. Looking forward to having another exciting Friday night right here in the pub. So while I don't have anybody here in the pub right now, except me and the pandas, of course, I just want to say that this is the only one time I'm ever going to say this. So listen up. I call it the pub, not because we necessarily drink alcohol, although we could, because it is Friday night and all. Time to unwind, time to, relax. Kind of tough week, news cycle. Now it's time for them to just like bury everything. Friday night, they bury everything. They bring it all out on Monday again. But pub for me is what it means is Republican. Yay! So why don't you just remember that when I say pub, I could mean two things, but most of the time I'm meaning one thing, Republican. You got the Dems and you have the pubs. So pick your poison. No, I'm not necessarily one or the other. But right now, I know I am not a Dem. So sorry to disappoint anybody out there who thinks that they want to be Dems and they want to join us. And they can, even trolls, I don't care. I'm going to try to be welcoming to everyone. So I have a book I can read if I have to, if I can't think of anything else to do. And I'm just going to have fun. I've invited friends. I've invited quads. I know Friday nights are tough for most people because they just want to relax. They don't really want to go anywhere, or else they have to go somewhere. They've got some end of the week family, maybe going to a real bar. Yeah, you see, I'm not much of a bar person. Mostly because I can't drink. I wish I could drink. I wish I could get shit-faced. But I've only actually done that maybe once or twice in my life. Okay. I don't know. I've probably lost count. But I try to only think it's one or two times because I don't condone it. And it's just doesn't really agree with me. It gives me a major headache. If I take my glasses off, then I can't see anything. You don't get a reflection from my glasses, but you really can't see my eyes, can you? Okay, so I just invited my friends on Facebook and my friends on Quodkru to join me and support me. And of course, and my family, who I always support. Sorry, I keep waiting. I'm waiting. Okay. The thing is that this is an opportunity to be like interactive, even though I can't put you on with me, which I would love to do. But because of limitations on the YouTube studio, I would have to invest in something else like what we use on Quadverum, which is a StreamYard, so that you can stream and invite other people and have windows. If you Pay, I think there's different levels in which you can pay. And most of the levels, it's probably about $50 a month. Maybe not that much, but it adds up. And I'm just going to do this, uh, trying to build up a clientele, maybe. I don't know. So here's the story about me, okay? Last time I told you all about my work as a telephone repair person, woman, uh, telephone operator. I worked in a central office, and I did that for 30 years. And that was great fun. I liked it. I really liked it a lot. But after 30 years, things start happening on the corporate level. And we had, originally it was GTE back in 1977. And then they expanded and became very lucrative. And then they decided to merge or go in with one of the Atlantic Bell companies, and they turned up with the name Verizon. And of course, I don't need to say anything more about Verizon. Everybody knows. But there's a lot of corporation changing, and you get layoffs, you get a lot of people retiring, you get new programs. You see what's going on right now with COVID and after COVID. So it's definitely not something that you feel like doing forever. I mean, most people lasted 30 years, some people over 30 years. I knew I worked with some people who worked there for 45 years. And one lady, she was going to wait till she had worked there for 50 years. I can't even imagine. But if you start off young, 50 years is not that long if you want to just retire after that. But I met the sweetheart of my life after I turned, after I was still working for the company. So in 2000. And things just happened. So it was an opportunity for me to go ahead and take my retirement at 30. Now, in 30 years, you can get your medical benefits. So I had the medical benefits. Lucky for me, I haven't ever used much of my medical benefits. And so I wanted to go back to school and finish my degree. I've been working on my degree, since I graduated from high school. And I took classes and I had a lot of units and credits, but I never really had anything. I mean, no degree outside of an AA degrees. So my fiance or husband now said, hey, Cal Poly is doing a adult program and it's a night program and you can get your degree. So with his information, I said, okay. So I went ahead and I got a degree at Cal Poly, a bachelor's degree of art, and I graduated with the class. And it was interdisciplinary studies. You can barely say that, but it was just a bullshit degree, of course. But it was a degree. So then I took a year off, and maybe I got married. Anyway, he was like, well, you could go back to work, find a job. It's like, I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to find a job because that's why I retired. But I thought it would be good. It'd be a cool thing to do if I could do like something like a marriage and family therapist. I kind of explored a lot with psychology and with shamanism, I was into that. What would you say? Yoga, mostly spiritual, religious experiences. And right off the bat, I'd like to just be a shaman. I could burn incense or sage, and I can try to get all the evil spirits out of you. Well, we live in the 21st century, and we live by licenses and professionals. So the closest thing to a shaman would be like a therapist. So you can do a marriage and family therapy with a master's degree. And I didn't really want to go get a PhD degree. I mean, master's degree was just enough of a hassle for me. But there was a Brandman University was a close college affiliated with Chapman University, and they had a program that you could do in 2 years. Of course, I took 3 years, and I did finally get that degree. And then I went on the hunt or the search to be a marriage and family therapist, which state of California has the most toughest rules because all the marriage and family therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists, not psychiatrists, but psychologists, they all get together and they all help each other out and decide that, well, you need to get more hours. So you had to have 3,000 hours in order to take this test, which again, it's just another long bullshit test. And I'm not a good test taker. I don't like taking tests. But the kicker was COVID. I had almost made my 3,000 hours, and then COVID hit. And I was working for 2 organizations, 2 nonprofits. One was for seniors, and the other one was for a community, but we also, as a community outreach in the small community, we would go to the schools and we would offer the program to see the kids. And of course, I really liked seeing the kids. And I had all ages from about first grade through high school. And I didn't get a lot of hours, but I was working at it. And I think I would have had the hours if we didn't have COVID. But then COVID came along, and what they do, they shut down the schools. And then they offered us like, oh, well, you can have, video conferencing with kids. And to me, I was like, you mean you want me to work with, first graders and 3rd and 5th graders online? How's that going to work? Oh, don't worry, it'll work fine. Anyway, I decided, no, I didn't want to do that. And interesting as it was, I had this dream. I would call it a dream, but it was a little bit more than just a dream. That in October of 2019, I was with my husband. We were in Hawaii, and on Maui, beautiful, which is something I'm going to be doing in a week from now. Yay! So next Friday, either I'm going to be broadcasting from Maui, or I will just skip the broadcast. So beautiful. And 9 o'clock California time is 6 o'clock Hawaii time. So that means I would have to be ready by 6 o'clock, which I don't know that would be a problem. I could probably do it. So I might. Of course, I have LL here. Hey there. Hey, LL. How are you? He says, I'm here listening to your story. Interesting. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I know. I'm just kind of going off on my own life story. And trying to get a following. It's not easy. People have their own things going on. And as I explained earlier, I don't really get the support from my family and friends. I support them, but they don't support me. How's that work out? You feel the same way? Anyway, I wanted to go into being like a relationship coach or a life coach. And as I was saying, I was in Hawaii, and in October it was almost like Halloween. That's why I remember it. And I was awakened early in the morning. I don't know, it wasn't that early, but it was before my husband gets up. He always gets up an hour earlier than I do. And it's just one of those times, that if you've ever had that, where you hear out of the air a voice that says, "It's coming, it's coming." It was one of those things that was kind of like telling me that something was happening. Well, this was in October 2019, if you remember. And it kind of just like said to me something was happening. Now, before that, interesting thing is that I was watching Ragnarok by, Marvel comic movie with Thor. And the reason why I like watching the Thor movies is because my husband's name is Thor, which one of these days I am going to interview him, but he was too tired tonight. And he's just kind of a, old fashioned guy. He's not into comic books and Thor and any of that stuff. So it bypasses him. And anyway, so the whole time I knew that when I was doing my hours, I had to have them completed in 5 years. They give you a 5-year where you can complete your hours. Now, if you can't get them done in 5 years, then you have to go through and like reapply or do some kind of hanky pokey situation. And I didn't want to have to do that. So I have been like saying for a long time, like 2019, that the year 2020 was my Ragnarok. So if I didn't get all my hours in by 2020, then that was it. I just didn't want to keep doing it. And of course, what was going on during that time before COVID, it was the Trump thing. And 2016, I voted for him. And I just felt that he would be a great president. And of course, everybody hated him. I mean, in California and my friends, and they all just thought it was a joke. But he's not a joke. I just like, I've never seen, I mean, I know this has happened, but I've never seen pile up on someone like they did to him. They just kept saying all these total lies about him, his character, his personality. And I think I'm a pretty good judge of character and personalities. I seem to have been able to stay out of trouble with most suspicious characters, which, I like getting into trouble. So, LL, if you're still there, I just want to know if you want to have a drink. We are at the pub. I have wine waiting to share with somebody, but I'm not going to drink alone. So anybody out there who wants to drink, give me a little heads up here on the chat. So what was I talking about? I was talking about my Ragnarok 2020 and Donald Trump. And anyway, all these things started happening to me, and I thought, working in the field of psychology, you're working with a lot of liberal mentality. And, the people that I worked with, I could tell, they were all like on the bandwagon to hate Trump. And they were all behind Hillary Clinton. I'm like, can you guys not see this woman is just like evil and hateful? Anyway, let's see here. It says that, yes, I had similar experiences of inner knowing, intuition. I don't know what to call it. I don't drink much. I get headaches too. Yeah, me too. Okay, LL, I won't tempt you. We'll just drink water. Yeah. So the thing was, is that once that whole, so I was listening and I was following this whole thing going on after I had that experience in October of 19, where they started talking about these games in China and how this terrible virus had been exposed to everybody during those times. And then they started blaming the Americans that they had, released this virus. And I'm like, it's coming. What is coming? Something is coming. I don't know. And just watching what was going on. I didn't have SQV at the time because I didn't know about it. I wasn't much of it. I mean, I'd been working on my hours and I had not been paying attention to Twitter and all the other stuff. But um, I just like knew there was going to be a big monstrous thing going on here. And I lost faith. I lost faith in the people that I was working with. Both of the companies that I worked for, they were nonprofit, and I could see that they were very so-called liberal, or just the fact that they were, anti-Trump. And like, you couldn't even mention that you supported Trump or you thought he was a cool guy or that it would be a good president, because you would just get this stink eye, like, how dare you? So, of course, that started happening in 2016. So it kind of felt like I was suppressed once he did get elected, and we're all going, yes, yes, yes. And then I had to kind of be a closet conservative. And my friends are all like, that I grew up with, just were all, mainstream, CNN, MSNBC. And I couldn't convince them otherwise. So at that point, I didn't really want to go back. I didn't want to be in the field of psychology. I know that there's some conservatives out there, but this is California, so not too many in the field of psychology. I just know that sometimes people just are really not informed. They don't know really what they're buying into. They just go along. And I did that for all my, most all my life. Because if you're busy working, raising a family and having children and just doing the day-to-day things that you have to do, how do you make time to really pay attention to politics? And it's so confusing. I did not know where to go with that. I just knew that when they announced this whole COVID thing, I saw the whole breakdown in our society where people were just spouting all kinds of disinformation and lies. And then I started seeing how quickly they decided to close down the schools. And that I thought was just horrendous. What were they doing? I mean, like the teachers unions. I mean, I was working in a classroom in an area where we, as it says, it's nonprofit. So this lady who was always in that same room, she had all this stuff out because she was really proactive socializing, the world. And when they did the school closed downs, and we were going, yeah, it's going to last a long time, but it was that whole 2 weeks to flatten the curve, which I bought into it. And then that is really what I was just like smashes me, because I feel so like, like I believe that. And they went almost 2 years. Anyway, I was listening to these guys talk on YouTube about the whole COVID thing, and they're pretty smart. I think they're pretty smart. They're doctors. Have you heard of them? You're Canadian, and it's very difficult to be a Trump supporter here. I love SQV and the people there. Well, LL's Canadian. That's what I like about SQV too, is that we have the ability to attract people from all over the world. We have quite a few people from Canada, and then we have people from, as you know, Vietnam, two of our famous Vietnam contributors. And then we have Israel, England, Canada. We used to have somebody from Brazil, but he hasn't been coming lately. I kind of miss that he doesn't come anymore. But then again, that's the thing about online. We have people come and go, and a lot of times it's kind of we feel not really connected. It's kind of like impersonal. And I see a lot of people want to have relationships, personal relationships, but then they don't want to participate. So how do we have personal relationships if we can't even participate? Can't even speak. So yeah, it's kind of funny when we were in about 2015, before the elections, and we were traveling. I think we traveled to Australia and New Zealand, and everybody, like the taxi drivers, they all asked about Trump, and they all kind of like supported Trump. It was kind of cute, because that was the first thing anybody wanted to know about, is like what we thought about Trump. Well, of course, my husband and I were supporters, so we were like, yeah, he's great. And a lot of the taxi drivers that we get cab rides with agreed. But there was this comic book hatred, where mainstream medias were so successful in creating this character of Trump, like big bad orange monster. And he's so mean with his mean tweets. And he was a racist. And I'm telling you, I never have ever seen that part of him. And I don't believe it's even true, because one of the gentlemen that ran against Trump in the primaries, Ben Carson. Now, Ben Carson is amazing, because I had gone to a convention for orthopedic doctors, and he was a speaker at one of the meetings. And so I'd never heard of him, of course, before that. And that was way before he ran for president. And the man is brilliant. He's a very smart man. So anyway, one of the debates that was going on with all the different candidates were there in line to debate. And they were calling the names of each person, and they were going in an alphabetical order. Well, they had called, I don't know, whoever it was, a couple of guys, and then they said Ben Carson. Well, he was standing in the back, off to the side or whatever, and he didn't hear him say this name. So there was that awkwardness where he wasn't there. And then so the speaker just went to the next name. And so he started calling the rest of the names. And then they got to Donald Trump. And so the cameras were on the back of the where they were waiting. And you could see where Trump went up to Ben Carson and he said, this is what they said later. I don't think there was sound at the time, but he said, they already called your name. You're supposed to go ahead and go out there. So he extended his hand to say, go ahead and go on out there, So instead of all the other guys were like pushing him out of the way, it's kind of like they knew that he was, they weren't, you know what I mean? They weren't helping. They just wanted to just trample all over this guy because they were more important. And I think that tells a lot um, about Trump. He's not that brash. I know people who have this persona of being brash. They come out that way. But if you ever have any kind of a one-on-one, talk with them, they're not. They're very quiet and they're very shy. So it's kind of funny. I kind of think that's the same way as Saul. I think Saul sometimes would come across as being very uh, um, um, rough or assertive. But then when you see him with people online or whatever, he's just kind of a big old teddy bear. But, it was kind of intimidating when I first started going on SQV. Why did I start with SQV? Oh, you know what I did? I didn't even start with SQV. I started with Mastodon. And I was been looking for um, something to replace Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I didn't like all the people who were promoting the anti-Trump doctrine. And I didn't want to, I just want to support them. So I was trying to get off of Facebook, which I'm still on Facebook, but I don't post any of my pictures. I closed all my accounts and I have this one account that I just kind of is there for uh, friends and family. And then I quit the Instagram and I got banned from Twitter because I called somebody a bitch. Speaker of the House. And they did the same thing to me as what they're doing to Clucker Tarson. Oh, well. Anyway, they insist that you take down what you say, right? Like if you say something and they go, well, that's against our community policies and you have to remove it. And if you don't remove it, you have to be, kicked off. And I'm like, I'm not going to remove it. I just closed my account. But I did open another account. I still have one open. But back to seeking I have tried every single, social media thing out there, platform out there, from MeWe, MySpace, you name it. And it doesn't take off, it just doesn't really work out. So I somehow came across this Mastodon platform. So I clicked on it. I signed up for it. I signed up for it under I don't know, no social agenda or one of the other stuff that they have on there. And as I'm reading and looking at all the different comments, I I started seeing that everybody that was just a social quadverum were kind of like MAGA, Trump, and all this stuff. Okay, so let's see. SMB has helped me recognize the collectivist nature, the fascist nature of Canadians. To know the self is the first step. Also, when SMB called me a moron, I smartened up. A big leap occurred. I appreciate him. Well, as you know, that's one thing that we have to learn to do when we are strong-willed, instead of taking offense and getting like our feelings hurt. Like when I first started on there. I actually was like, when he would make a comment about one of my comments, and I would get my heart would start going crazy, and I'd get like kind of hurt about it or whatever it was that was happening. And it was kind of interesting. He was very different a few years ago with some of the other people, and he was getting he could get pretty gruff on YouTube, but like I said, he's like a teddy bear. You have to know that some of the professors that I ever had, in my whole years of going to learning, because I like to learn, I love learning, was these certain college professors that I probably started off hating them. I started off saying that they were just, a-holes. But then the longer that I would stay and get to know their subject matter, the more I would actually learn from them. And so actually, I think two of the most obnoxious teachers that I ever thought I could never stand, I couldn't stand at first. I ended up learning a lot from them and really enjoyed having their classes in the end. I think one was a math teacher and one was a writing teacher. Anyway, so that's kind of how I look at him, as the professor. And he's kind of calmed down a little bit. He's not as aggressive on some of the trolls that we get, but he's definitely funny. It's definitely entertaining. Now, going back to the collectivist, that's the thing, that is the key that I think got me into where I was like, made sense. Because, growing up in a socialist kind of country, with education and everything, and I would have discussions with my husband, like, about the community, how important the community is. And when you're raising a family, that's important. So to make that connection between a collectivist versus an individualist, here's a really good example I can think of. I posted a YouTube video, and it was on Malaysia Air Flight 570, I think. Anyway, it was recently they've kind of come up with some evidence on it. That's where the flight just disappeared. The pilot was from obviously Malaysia, and there was at the beginning when it disappeared, they looked for months and months, they never did find it. And I remember that there was some talk that it might have been like a murder suicide thing, where he was Muslim and there was some kind of political thing going on, but everyone kept saying no, that couldn't be, because he was revered by the community and he'd been a pilot for a long time. Well, the point that they were making on this whole thing is that they think they have new evidence where they might find another place to search for that. But now this is, of course, in Malaysia, and they're very collectivists. They are socialists to the get-go. So I appreciate the understanding is that because of they would not admit, or they would never ever say anything that would put a mark on the government. So they're denying that this guy may have had a part in the disappearance of this plane. And they alluded to the fact, this is a Australian on Sky, and they were alluding to the fact that there was a lot of cover up. There was a point where they felt that the plane was in a holding pattern for about like 22 minutes. And they think that he may have been negotiating, like maybe he was using some kind of evidence saying, if you don't free my, this guy who they just convicted, then I'm going to do this. But we don't know. Nobody knows. So, but again, like I said, it's kind of like this collectivism when you have like communist country, and these people have been subjected to this multi-generations, and they only see things that one way. So the people on the plane, the families who lost their family members, there was like 300 people or 233 passengers. And of those passengers, 6 or 8 were Australians. And you don't hear anything from the Malaysian government, but the Australian, people, they're like, yes, we want to find out what happened to our loved ones. And the box, what do they call it? The black box. That, do you know where it is? Anyway, the one that the planes have, they have a audio recording, and then they also have the data recording. If they can get that, then they could have more evidence to piece together. But it looks to me like that guy had planned this, because on his, he had one of those flight simulators, and on this flight simulator that he had at his home, there was a place in that part of the ocean that he had actually marked. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you mark that? But back to my idea is that I just think that the Malaysian government probably did cover up a lot of stuff because they did a lot of mistakes. Ooh, I hope this is not a problem with YouTube. Anyway, we're just surmising. We don't really know. But I've always been interested in these kind of crashes, airline crashes, and how come they can't find the the problem or the stuff that they have. So it's pretty fascinating. But again, like I said, if you believe that the collectivist, which means that the greater good is more important than your own individual good, you're not going to go after trying to figure out or hold your government accountable to why this happened. You're just going to say, oh, they don't know. Okay. I don't know if that happens much in Canada. I mean, I always thought Canada was a little more free-spirited and free-thinking. And they are. I know they are. But I mean, it's just because it's a difference between the Western beliefs and probably the Eastern beliefs, because even though, there's this big push to have the socialism versus freedom of individuality. And then, of course, we saw this during all of COVID and how that all played out. Anyway, that's just kind of a ramble going on there. Yeah, I've been at it for 41 minutes. It's kind of cool, huh? Okay, LL, you have to write one more thing at least, because all I can see is that he called you a moron. Yeah, Canadians are collectivists. Okay. And so, I mean, clearly, so are a lot of people in the world, especially even in the United States. And they don't even know it. That's the whole thing. And that's where I don't know, the professor helps us to recognize that thinking and where it's wrong, where it doesn't really go with our democracy. It's I had this discussion, like I said, with my husband about, he was raised Catholic, And he works as a doctor in this hospital, and it used to be ran by the Catholic Church, where it was sisters, it was nuns. And he cut his teeth on this hospital, and it was run really good. I mean, it was a good hospital. And the sisters ran it, and they all lived in their kind of a convent. And of course, in monasteries, we see that happening. And it works well if you have a common belief. Like if you can believe that all your good work is going to be rewarded another time, another place, you can do that. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work on a grand scale of human behavior. People have to have rewards on or see something that they're wanting to do. Um, we have been conditioned for 2 generations. Most don't know it. Yes, SMB helped me see it in myself. And now I have Terry Cooney. Hi, how you doing? Yay, you joined us for a little while. Good to see you. We're having a discussion about Canadians. Are you close to Canada, Terry? I actually have a friend, my best friend, and she's Canadian, but her parents moved from England to Canada, and then from Canada down to California because they didn't like the cold weather. And so she's actually lived all her life in California, but she still has her dual citizenship. So she still has her Canadian citizenship. So she kind of identifies with she likes to identify with being Canadian. And well, as back to being conditioned for 2 generations, it's actually been going on a lot longer than 2 generations. And again, there's that question of reforms. Like we were talking about President Wilson. I went to a Wilson elementary school, so that's the only thing I knew about Wilson. But, he was saying that he was a kind of a proto-fascist because he started putting in all these reforms and he started bringing in federal government reforms. Well, I got my little history book out with U.S. history, high school level, and was kind of looking up what was going on. And of course, Teddy Roosevelt also started instituting some reforms, but I think they were good reforms, because there was like food and drug and those sort of things. Those are positive reforms. But instead, the progressives just keep going at it, and they're never happy, and it's just kind of created what we have today. Say, Terry is in north central Pennsylvania, which is about 2.5 miles from Niagara Falls. I went to Niagara Falls a couple years ago. I like it. Well, before COVID anyway. I love Niagara Falls and Pennsylvania. So you know a little bit about Canadians. When government socialized medicine happened in the late 1960s, there was no going back. Yeah. Yeah, medicine is kind of a tricky subject altogether. Those are those social reforms, like we decided that everybody should be entitled to having certain medical care. LL says that I live on the border with Michigan. I look out my window and I see the USA. Hey, I went to when I went to Niagara Falls, which was the first time I went to Niagara Falls, and the last time. I haven't been there since, only time. And we went to Michigan, and we went to Mackinac Island. So have you been to Mackinac Island? I'm sure you have. Everybody likes Mackinac Island. I never heard of it. My aunt was one of her bucket list things to do, so we did that. So Terry is saying that I once lived in Amherst, New York, and would go to the falls on my day off. That is so cool. That is the most beautiful, unbelievable, magical place. Um, you're very lucky, very, very lucky to have to do that or get to do that. When we went with my aunt and uncle, I got our hotel room right across from the falls. So we got there at kind of late at night. So we went into our hotel room and we opened up the curtains, and you saw all the beautiful lights on the falls and everything. And I think they were shooting off fireworks. It was very, very magical. Indeed. Very magical. That's why I like lights. As you see in my background, I got my aurora borealis going on. That's on my bucket list. I'd love to see the aurora borealis. I guess you guys get to see it up there, don't you? Um, you're close enough to the poles that you might get to see the northern lights once in a while. That would be awesome. Uh, I don't like cold. I would go. I guess there's two places to go see them. Either Fairbanks, Alaska has good uh, aurora borealis, northern lights, and then there's also in Norway. I went to Norway during the summertime to see the midnight sun, so I know what that's like, but I don't know that I'll ever get to the cold, freezing winter where you get the lights. Yeah, conditions must be right. I've seen them a few times. So Terry, you got to see them from being in um, Michigan. I'm gathering, unless it was while you were in New York. Anyway, I'm gonna have to get there and see those things. That would be way cool. Um, yeah, I know. I watched the. They have like a website which it shows you when the solar rays are just right to see them, and then I watch them on YouTube. And then I have them here on my backdrop. That's the only time I get to see them. Maybe someday I'll see them. But I come to realize that they're not, it's not like you romanticize about what they look like. But most of the times when you're looking at some of the really cool pictures, it's because they use time lapse. So they're taking it over and over again. So you're not really actually getting to see all those lights. Unless I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, my music went away. Terry said, no, they reached Pennsylvania once in the 90s, in the early 90s. It was really exciting. Then LL, those lights are rare in Ontario. I lived in Alberta for 10 years. The northern lights are common there. So that's in Alberta. Yeah, you have to be in certain great locations, and it does have to be certain conditions. And I find that it's usually after some major sunspots, but of course it has to be night. So when the sunspots are happening during the summertime, you're not going to see any northern lights. So thank you guys for coming on and helping in the discussion. As I said, I kind of like to say it's Friday, yay, let's party. But I'm not a party person per se. I mean, I stay home all the time. And I know that Fridays are kind of tough for people, but because they have other things going on. Not me. We used to go to the movies on Friday nights, but we don't do that anymore. I don't go to the movies. I don't go out to eat. My husband falls asleep on the chair watching, I think he's watching some cowboy movie right now. We have completely different, total opposites on what we like to watch on TV. So that kind of quit where we don't watch too much TV together. He really likes the violent movie stuff where they're fighting and killing and blowing everybody up. I think it's a guy thing. What do you think? Um, that's the other thing is I was saying I'd like relationships, people um, feel isolated. And especially through the COVID thing, we really have a lot of isolation going on. And the interaction that we get on these YouTube channels is phenomenal, but trying to find the right group that's want us to, to want to listen and watch. Like we have a really good group with Quadverum and with SMB, as we're calling them. And the thing is that he works hard. I mean, at doing that. I mean, can you imagine 4 days a week being like this? I decided I wanted to try to do this just one day on Fridays and put it out there. And if people want to, participate, that would be awesome. And I was going to do one on Wednesday, but then Wednesday came along and I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm tired I mean, I have no reason to be tired, but it's just that, you have to kind of sit there and yammer on about when you don't have any conversation to work towards. My late husband watched the loud movies. I stick to comedies myself. Yeah, I definitely don't like the loud shoot 'em up explosions going on all the time. But he is actually kind of on the deaf side. He's losing his hearing, and he really listens to loud TV, and I have to go away. I go into my little office and just do internet. Because I said I like the interaction that you get on internet. And there is this other group of people that go and do like live podcasts. And I've been watching some of their stuff, which most of them want to talk about really gross, naughty things. You know what I mean? They're like, and they like to use the F word every other word. And they generally are smoking and getting high and stoned. And you can watch the show. This is on D Life. And they start off being pretty good. And then as the night goes on, they're getting more toasted and they're laughing and thinking they're so good, but they really lose their edge. They're not very good. I had this one streamer who he's pretty good, and he doesn't use any optics. He just stands there and talks the whole time. He doesn't use the electronic background, where you have the I'm trying to think, the electronic games going on. It's real popular where a lot of people like to just put their little box down here in the corner of the TV set, and they're just playing their games, and then you have all the video noise going on the TV. But I don't find that to be very interesting. I'm not a gamer. And he's pretty good though. I have to say, he does keep people's interest, and he's got quite a good follower. I think he said he's been doing it for years. He makes good money on it too. Can you believe it? They make money doing this stuff. It's like, yeah, sure. Not me. Not me. So, Terry, let's see here. Uh, I don't like to lose track of my facilities. So, no illicit drugs for me. Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? They really like, they're actually, I mean, I know that some of it's just on those pipes that they use. I can't think of the names, but I know some of them are actually smoking, like weed, they're using a bong and everything. And it's like, you can do that? It's just beyond me. I don't get it. Um, nobody's going to go anywhere. I mean, that's their, they're not going to go anywhere in life that I can see, because that's where I see a lot of problems with these kids today. They just want to be rude and into their own drug use, I guess you could say. No, I gave up drugs in college. Okay, so on, let's see, I was also going to read some information on the Quadverum. I really have to say I am definitely addicted to that site. I like to see what comments I get. Um, I've had more followers on that site than anywhere else, and any of my other places that I've tried to do the social media thing. Um, it's the best. It's best by far, by long distances. So now I've kind of come to a point here where I don't know what to say. That's right, Terry. You are a teacher, or you retired as a teacher, and you held yourself to a higher standard, old fashioned, but I offer no apologies. Well, I should hope not. I think that's very amiable of you to do that. So I was just wondering if you miss teaching. It just amazes me that they actually shut the schools down for almost 2 years. I was listening to these couple guys talking on one of the YouTube channels I like to listen to, and they're doctors, and they're talking about one of the biggest mistakes that they see that we did was shut down the schools and put masks on little children. And so he was comparing Michigan to, I think it was Sweden, because Sweden and Michigan have about the same amount of population. And Sweden did not close down any of their schools. They kept the schools open, you know, the whole time. And they have like less deaths than Michigan did. You miss the kids, but I don't miss the administrators. I exactly know what you're talking about, because when I was doing my counseling and I was with the elementary school, and I didn't have to really interact with the administrators, which was totally cool. But I did like the kids. And once in a while, I had to talk to one of the teachers or one of the administrators. But I was an intern, so I didn't have all the responsibilities. And I did have my own supervisor, who she did a lot of the interacting. with the administration. I think that's what people do, though. They go into teaching because they they like, I mean, there's lots of reasons to go into teaching, but then um, they want to go into administration. And once they go in as administrators, there's a lot of responsibilities. I have to, you recognize that they have to deal with every single kid in the whole school. I would go into the office to get my kids out of class, and the principal, she would be around half the time. But every little thing that went on in that school would come through that office, and that they would have to get the notes and from the parents, and if the kids are late, or if the kid's been sick, or all the different things that was going on, or if the kids were being disciplined. And this was a small elementary school. It wasn't very big. I can't even imagine what it would be like. And I do miss the kids too. Um, they're sweet, they're wonderful. And I hated the way that we just closed down the school, and I didn't get to say goodbye to any of the kids that I was seeing. And that was it. Poof, you're all gone. There was like a couple little girls, and there was this one little boy that just like really needed a lot of care and help. Terry says that yes, administrators have to do only 5 years in the trenches. Yeah. Yeah, and they want to get out of that as soon as they can, and they make more money in the administrative, so that's what they do. But I don't know. After a while, you start losing. You just start losing the ability to know what's really going on. I think when you're not teaching, when it's not a hands-on teaching. LL says by shutting down the schools, parents discovered the content of the curriculums, a positive outcome from the school shutdowns. Yeah, that was a big help. I mean, it kind of like backfired on all the school or teachers unions, the people that were pushing for all of this. But this one guy was telling me, it was a YouTube thing, but he was talking about his daughter who was 14, and she's in school. Now this is in the San Francisco area, and the state has already said you don't have to wear masks. Kids don't have to wear masks to school. But he said all the kids are still wearing masks. And his daughter, she came home the other day and said, this kid was in class and he didn't want to wear a mask anymore. So he came into class with his mask off. The teacher said to the kid, well, I don't feel comfortable with you not wearing a mask, so you should wear a mask. But since you don't want to wear a mask, and you don't have to wear a mask, I don't feel comfortable with you sitting in the middle of the room. So she made a move back by the door. And they kind of laughed because the door is like, they have all the windows open in the whole classroom, but the door is probably the least amount of circulation. That's pretty awful. I mean, what would you do? Would you go to the school? Would you complain? I mean, this teacher apparently says, oh, I'm immune compromised, and I want all the kids to wear masks, even though they've already said you don't have to wear masks. State of California said no masks. I'm totally out of that because I don't have any kids in school. Thank goodness. Like I said, I'm not involved with the schools anymore. Anyway, I do think that in other parts of the country, people will start speaking out and get the curriculum thing going at least. But still, you're going to have those parents who just are too overwhelmed. They can't follow the curriculum. They can barely keep track of their kid. So, they're not going to say anything. Yeah, I hope that they do something to bring that around. Did you see there was, okay, I'm going to blame this on my husband because it's his fault. He watches Tucker Carlson. I have to admit, I'm not a Tucker Carlson fan, but he was going on about, we had this guest come to the show tonight, and the guy goes around to all these city council meetings, and he has this kind of like, you get your 5 minutes to speak, and he just puts on this big act, this big crazy act about trying to get the attention of the city council people to change some of the things that are going on. Did you see that? Anybody see that? Anyway, he said that he started out going to city council meetings just because he wanted to be, he wanted to get his opinion out there and he wanted to be heard. But he found that once he would go and do, they give you 5 minutes or 10 minutes to talk, and he would go and talk serious stuff, and they just either blew him off or they weren't listening. So he's like, I wanted to get their attention. He goes, people that go to the meetings, they're nervous. So they have to go up to the mic and they have to say what they want to say. And they're sitting there, the city council people are sitting in their chairs, all smug and, like comfortable, because that's what they do. And he said he just wanted to get other people to react, to respond to what he was saying, and make them nervous, let the city council be nervous. I'm gonna have to look that up. I guess he's got some YouTube things. Oh, you did? Oh, Terry says that she posted about him yesterday on SQV. Well, I'll have to look it up, Terry. I missed it. He's pretty entertaining, I would say. We were talking earlier about the collectivists versus individualists and the difference, and how do you get people to recognize the positives, and the negatives, what's positive and what's negative. I mean, in some ways, collectivism, I can say, is like in the family. You have to work together as a family to have a successful and non-chaotic household. And that is like, well, what's wrong with that? And of course, nothing. But then the other thing is that if you look at it like a hive, like everything is only for you're a worker bee, and you don't matter, you don't count. It's the queen bee or the administrators, or where they're the ones that count. And as our dear professor says, that's I would say is type of fascism that we're not even ever talking about. We don't talk about that. It's like, to me, I lived in a bubble and I thought that the United States was totally democratic. I'm going to be right back. My dog wants in. Is that you? Come on, get in here. Come on, Cinnamon. You want to say hi? Come here, Cinnamon. This is Cinnamon. Come here. Come here, say hi. Say hi. Oh, there she is. Oh, she wanted to come say hi to everybody. Hello. That's a speaker. I mean, that's a microphone. No. Oh, all right. She's my big teddy bear. He was on Tucker Carlson this evening. That's right. I was just talking about him. So you watch him too, huh? Well, I say my husband watches him, so I have an excuse. I watch him with him once in a while, and I can't think of his name. So if you want to give him a plug, if you can think of his name, put it on here. Cinnamon. Oh, cinnamon. A cinnamon latte. She's pretty spoiled for sure. A spoiled dog. So that's the other thing we can talk about. Pets. We can talk about relationships. We can talk about gardening, cooking, politics. Well, yeah, I hated that. I mean, it's like I get these kind of like these are these stories, and they say, "No child left behind." I mean, it's so. Well, of course not. Like, why would we want to leave anybody behind? But that's just it's a ruse to get people to instigate or institute or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, you could talk about it, Terry. I would love to talk about it, but you have to type. Or you could join me somehow or another through. I guess we can go ahead and talk on the SQV. Yeah, what year was the No Child Left Behind? You say Bush Jr. I think that was, there's a little bit of a delay on the YouTube, so I have to remember that. 2002. So what was the first thing that you noticed about some of the reforms that they were making? Were they doing, like, up until then, were they so much involved with schools on a local level? I mean, like, did the federal government start handing out money to the schools to try to get them to follow some kind of protocol? Anyway, yeah, my dog, he was, you were surprised to meet, okay, LL, you were surprised to meet your inner fascist. It took a while to admit it to yourself. Well, describe what you're talking about when you're calling yourself a fascist. I mean, we all have our own, opinions, but that doesn't really make us a fascist. So why were you a fascist? Um, I guess you have to have control over people. I mean, that's my guess, in order to implement your fascism, your rules, my way or no way at all. I don't know. There's one movie that I watched with Sophia Loren, and it was kind of interesting because it was her, and it's an old movie, but it was her during Mussolini, and Mussolini was doing was having a kind of a war rally. It was a rally, and I think they were going to have Hitler speak. So the whole, it's like the whole town was expected to go to this rally. And Sophia Loren is, I bet you know this movie. I bet you know it, Terry. As she was allowed to stay home because she had a lot of work to do. She was like living in this little flat and she had this husband and like 3 or 4 kids. But, they were all excited and they're all going to this big rally. And it was kind of like expected of the townspeople to go. And that was Mussolini. And of course, he's well known for the fascism. So to me, that was the only thing that I thought was fascist, was Mussolini and Hitler, of course. But that's my education. I didn't go to a parochial school. You hear that? I don't know what she's into. I don't have any food in here. This is my studio. I call it my Panda Lair and Pub. And pub is short for Republican. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to drink. So LL is saying that controlling speech is common in Canada. I think that personally, speech is freedom of speech. I mean, sometimes we do have to control our the connection between our brain and our mouth on certain things. And I know there's always conditioning. We've all been conditioned in our families or growing up in our neighborhoods to, watch what you're saying. I know, kids tend to just blab anything off. The children, house of children, and of course um, that's innocence. But the thing is that there's just a time and place for saying things. Terry Cooney is saying that we lost academic freedom and were forced to teach to the previous year's test instead of the following year achievement tests. Many of us use those tests. Uh-oh, she's eating something. I don't think there's any food in here. I'll be right back. I have to find out what she's eating. What are you into? Oh. Hot and spicy Chex Mix. I have no idea where she got this. I don't eat this stuff. Where did you get this? No, you don't eat that stuff. That's not good for you. Sorry about that. Okay, Terry Cooney. I used to have my best friend in like first grade. His last name was Cooney, by the way. We lost. I said that already. We lost the academic freedom and forced to teach previous year's tests instead of following yearly achievement tests. Many of us used those tests. I don't know. Testing is it's so hard. I don't know what the answer is for testing. Honestly, excuse me. I never liked taking tests. I always had a terrible clenched fist in my bottom of my stomach every time I ever had to take a test in school. So I don't know. I said that when we started bringing in, multiple choice and bubble tests, that really helped teachers tremendously with having to correct, assignments and tests. But I don't really know how much we really learn that way, or how much we even prove that we know what we're talking about. Some people are pretty good at filling in those bubbles, and some people aren't. Um, Terry says there's a big push to end hate speech. I propose that hate speech is not real. People using hate when they mean dislike. Well, again, Terry, the whole thing started going crazy with the whole, they kept doing the um, microaggressions. I have to say that's the most funniest thing I've ever heard of. Oh, that's a microaggression. It was hard enough for me to handle passive aggressive, behaviors, but microaggression. Yeah, was that the guy from George Orwell, or the other guy? Brave New World. Well, I guess it was George Orwell with the speech where they started seeing that happening with World War II, with Hitler, and controlling people's speech and changing the words to mean something else, just to try to keep people off balance. And now we just go through all kinds of word salad with people trying to change the meaning of certain words. Again, hate speech is just okay. I'm not supposed to say again. My sister keeps reprimanding me about that. Yeah. I mean, what happened to the old sticks and stones would break my bones, but words will never hurt me? That was something I grew up as a kid. Like, we would never think to have, them the way they do with all this language. Oh yeah, Aldous Huxley was the author of The Brave New World. Don't you love that? I love that book. They did a series. The British did a series on Brave New World. Did you see that one? It was pretty good. I think it was on Netflix or something. I was watching it. I think they followed along pretty well. It was pretty interesting what they did. They used Arizona. I guess that's why the book was. I read the book too, but they did some things that were different. But it was a pretty good Brave New World rendition, modernized in London. Definitely, fascist speech, that's the thing. You control people. Okay, now I get what you're saying about the speech, LL. It's like, good thing is I see good, bad, whatever. And I don't know what's allowed. I don't have my book here, but we were talking on SQV about dating apps, that they had just put something on the dating map that if you swipe past the the trans the transsexuals on your dating app, you get some kind of a demeanor mark. I don't know, some kind of a mark against your account. And I was like thinking, really? I mean, if you're on a dating app, you're going through all these pictures of people and you're like rejecting them for all kinds of reasons, I mean, that's part of the dating app, it's like, no, there's just so many different things that people are looking for. But that is kind of becoming a real problem. And they're really pushing that really hard, that people have to start accepting these people. And it's like, no, you can't tell somebody who they're supposed to date. I don't think. I mean, that's pretty scary. That's one of the other things that they were working on, this streamer. He has people, he has like all kinds of platforms. So he's got people coming from YouTube and the D Live and the Instagram and Facebook and all those. And I'd say he's about 30, maybe. Yeah, he's about 30, 35. And they call in and they have all these. Um, he will talk about anything. He's not shy about anything. But that was one of the things, is that he was getting shamed for the fact that he says he's heterosexual, and he's like, no, I'm not interested. And they're saying, oh, well, you have to. It's like, no, you don't. What is this freedom of being able to choose these things? And like you say, speech is where that's where they're going after. So, LL, you have controlling speech issues or fascist speech issues. What would that be? I mean, I really don't like people talking about certain things. It's like, I'm out of here. You're going to talk about that? I'm not interested. I'm out of here. Goodbye. I mean, those are your choices. You can always leave if someone insists on talking about things like farts, bathroom jokes. I mean, guys, they like to do that. Okay, let's see here. I'm thinking that I know Terry's a girl, and I'm thinking LL is a girl too, a biological girl. I came up with a new word here because we were talking about the swimmer. What's the guy's name or the woman's name? Whatever she is, he is. And it was called, I came up with a new word for women because, of course, the big noise this week was that Jackson, what's Judge Jackson, I think that's her name. We were calling her something else. She couldn't define woman. Yeah, Leah Thompson. So this is my description. So they're saying, well, you can't call anybody a woman unless you're Leah Thompson. Like they have all these names to describe the female gender. So I said, this is what a womb whim. Womb whim. It's a womb whim. Or how about a whim womb, for part woman, part womb? Because, of course, guys don't have wombs. I mean, they can say I identify as a she, but I don't have a womb. So I came up with two words, either womb whim or whim womb. Let's see. Terry says, in 1999, a man who was an advisor to the mayor lost his job for correctly using the word niggardly in its correct context. The mayor apologized and the gentleman got his job back. That was absurd. Yeah, I know. Well, you're not supposed to say anything like that. And especially if you're a fair color. Anyway, yeah, that's definitely word fascism. I guess you're right about that. So I'm thinking I may be a womb whim or a whim womb. Neither one is easy to say. Ay. It's enough to make you crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They the discussion that the other ones was having was that well, we should have just tranny um, sports instead of putting, a biological man with biological women who they don't have the body mass, they cannot compete, and then you'd have to have a whole new sports thing, where you have only the biological men who want to be women can compete with each other. Well, that's a solution, but it's pretty expensive to go and try to create a whole new team um, for that. The word means miserly. Yes, I know. I know the word means miserly. It's just that it doesn't matter because it's we've changed the meanings of things. It's like now they're trying to change the meaning of women. I said that's degrading women. Where's the backlash to that? Where's the where are the pink hatted ladies? I mean, it's like they're totally silent. I don't hear anything from them. They're allowing this to happen. They're allowing biological men to compete with biological women. What's wrong here? Um, we need to have 2 additional categories if they carry on like this. Well, and then the other thing is what was pointed out to me by Mr. Baum is that if you look at all the statistics, the women, biological women who want to be preferred or identify as men or male, they don't have the same body mass. So they can't compete. They can't compete and win against other males, biological males. So they don't even, it's not even an issue with them because you're not going to see anyone out there competing with the other sex. Yeah, we have to come to us, this craziness has to stop. I mean, again, it's another third world problem. Like this is not a discussion probably in right now in Ukraine. They're not asking what you identify as. That's just crazy. Yeah, that's something to rant about. Okay, so Terry says we need 2 additional categories if we carry on like this. And LL says woke ruins everything: sports, education, business. School in London, UK is teaching there is now 62 genders. It's pretty funny, isn't it? Can we laugh about this? It's pretty funny. 62 genders. Oh my God. How could I even, I mean, I can't even dream of 62 genders. I don't even think I want to even know what 62 genders is. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Crazy world. Is it come? I mean, what does Alex Huxley say about this whole thing? It just continues to spin out of control. Or something devastating happens and then we go back to the Stone Ages where we no longer have internet and communications and electricity and we can't pump oil out of the ground because all the machines have stopped. I agree. It's absurd. It's crazy. Just crazy. Well, I think that we've had a good night. And wait a minute. I'm going to have a phone call.
Don't you dare hang up.
This guy, he's always bugging me. I have to tell him to go get lost once in a while. He's my creepy phone caller guy. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I know it's getting late for you guys. You there on the on let's see, I think you're 2 hours ahead of me. So it's 10:30 here, so that makes it 12:30 there. Are you guys both on the same time zone? Let's see, Terry's in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. I'm in my sister just moved to South Dakota. And I thought there were 2 hours difference, but they're only 1 hour difference according to what she told me. I think they do the time change too. Okay, LL. Thank you so much for joining us, and Terry too. And yeah, it's 1:30 there. Yeah, you guys are, I think, on the same time zone. Well, I will see you on QVC. No, wait. Oops. I've done that a few times. Do you guys ever shop on QVC? I call SQV, and it's so easy for me to do the QVC. So anyway, yeah, I got both those rings on QVC, as a matter of fact. All righty. It's good to see you guys. We'll talk again on SQV and see you in Bill Beard Blather tomorrow night or tonight, whichever time zone you're on. It's been fun. It's been good. Thank you. And Miss Cinnamon says thank you too. I don't have any music to end on, so we'll just end with this guy. Bye.